The gavel hadn't so much as fallen yet, but the atmosphere within that courtroom was already claustrophobic, thick with tension, heavy with secrets everyone understood, but nobody was bold enough to say out loud. Outside, cameras popped like fireworks, capturing every move of the Brown family as they approached the building that would determine their destiny. Fans, journalists, nosy strangers, they weren't there for justice. They were here for the show. Years of being paraded on TV as sister wives, a portrait of abnormally big love, and now here they stood, boiled down to something achingly mundane. A dysfunctional family, on trial in the icy clutches of the law. Christine entered first, her face firm but her jaw clenched tightly, bravery that had been tempered from years of being silenced. She sat without ever looking at Kody. After her was Janelle, her shoulders slumped under the weight of sleepless nights fretting about her children's future. Then Meri sweeping in quietly, the wife who lived perpetually in limbo, half in, half out. Her face inscrutable, but her decision to sit beside Christine and Janelle was louder than any words could have ever been. These three women weren't co-wives for the first time in years. They were allies. Across the aisle from him sat Kody, his golden curls dulled, his confidence turned to bitterness. His fists tightened with each set of eyes on him. Robyn sat close to his side, her hand grasping his arm, her eyes on the women across from them. She stood like someone who knew she was both his greatest sanctuary and his worst ruin. Silence descended when the judge appeared. The room stood up, then sat down. But still, the weight of it all, decades of deceit, betrayals, manipulation, sat heavily. Christine's attorney stood to speak. His voice rang out across the room. Your Honor, this case is not about divorce. It's not about separation. It's about a cycle of abuse, of betrayal, of manipulation that has wounded these women and their children. Today, we don't demand fairness. We demand justice. The words fell on Christine like a sledgehammer. She dropped her eyes, her breathing rapid. Janelle's hand landed on Christine's arm, a soft reminder, you are not alone. Kody shifted, his attorney muttering desperate tactics, but Kody's gaze never wavered from Christine. He seethed with an accusation too bitter to utter, that she had started this fire, that by going, she had burned it all down. Robyn sat rigid, lips clamped tight. She had long been accustomed to being portrayed as the villain, the wedge that split the family asunder, but now, even she couldn't gainsay what had transpired. The favoritism, the imbalance, it had all been exposed before the public eye, and now the court would witness it too, at close range. The proof started with numbers. Bank accounts depleted, homes moved, credit cards filled, chilly, inescapable evidence of money poured into one house while the rest cramped. Christine's fists balled in her lap, her teeth biting into her cheek to contain the tears. All those years of sacrifice, all those years of giving herself to this family, tossed aside like trash. When Janelle finally went on the stand, her voice shook first, but afterward found its force. We trusted him. We believed every choice was made together. I built a house myself. I invested every penny I had in the future of our kids. And then I discovered it was all gone, transferred, hid, spent. And why? So one home could prosper and the rest of us could barely survive. Kody's hand clapped on the table. Don't lie to me. I was behind all of you. I gave the family everything. His words thundered through the courtroom until the gavel brought him down. Mr. Brown, calm yourself, the judge growled. The air vibrated with whispers. Newsmen wrote rapidly. Kody's well-crafted persona was breaking apart, and each tirade split it further. Meri sat in silence, pale face, thin lips. The first wife, the one who had believed him when this dream started, and the one who had lost the most. When asked to say something, she faltered, then said softly, I stayed for hope. Hope that one day he would see me again, but hope is not enough when trust is gone. Her voice was almost a whisper, but the silence that followed thundered. Reporters leaned in, cameras snapped. Even the judge glanced up, his eyes faltered with something akin to pity. Kody's jaw clenched. He would not look at Robyn, he refused. For the first time he seemed little. Christine finally looked up to him. There was no anger, no revenge, only determination. A woman who had been broken too many times and had at last gotten the strength to rise. She did not have to talk, not anymore. Her silence was louder than any words ever had a chance to be. The judge declared recess, but it was too late. The damage was etched deep. This was the Brown family the world once witnessed as a symbol of faith, unity, and love. But now, they sat divided by tables, attorneys, and realities too painful to bury any longer. Cameras flashed tirelessly outside, but in the courtroom the truth could not be denied. This wasn't love, not anymore. It wasn't marriage or faith or family. This was survival. And survival was destroying the man who had promised to keep them all safe. The women stood, papers in hand, and with each step their unity was more apparent. They had entered as individuals. They were leaving as one. On the other side of the aisle, Kody leaned forward, his face buried in his hands, Robyn's hold white-knuckled on his arm. For all of his previous declarations of power and leadership, he appeared helpless, exposed. But this was merely the start. Day 2 dawned with ominous clouds. What had erupted in that courtroom yesterday had already gone viral, news pundits analyzing it, podcasts abuzz with speculation, fan sites aflame. If the courthouse was full on day 1, now it was bursting at the seams, shoulder to shoulder. Cameras followed every move the Browns made, and out in front of the courthouse, fans assembled with signs, some hailing Christine, Janelle, and Meri, others calling for an explanation from Kody and Robyn. For years, their tale had been newsreel slicked in the realities of television. But today, the uncut, unvarnished truth was on the loose. Within, the judge did not dilly-dally. "We will now take testimony from witnesses," he declared authoritatively. His gaze landed sternly on Kody, who had almost come apart at the seams yesterday. "And I expect complete decorum in this court." The first witness, a financial auditor, a reserved man, glasses low, a fat folder held in his hand, he placed it on the stand like a burden. "What we found," he started, his voice calm, "was an obvious pattern of mismanagement of funds. Funds shared diverted, assets being sold off without permission, debt being concealed." He opened the folder. The first sheet slipped out. "For instance, this house, to be shared among all the wives, sold, proceeds, almost $200,000, put into a joint account in Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown, none of it shared with the other wives." There was a gasp in the courtroom. Christine's eyes clamped shut, her fists bunched in her lap. Janelle sat back, lips quivering, struggling with grief and anger. Meri sat rigidly staring at the table, her silence more cutting than any words could be. Kody fidgeted in his seat, his face reddening. "That is not true," he growled, his voice low, but perfectly caught by the microphone. The auditor didn't blink. "Each of these numbers here is checked, traceable. These aren't wild guesses, these are facts." Christine's attorney intervened, his voice cutting through the air. While Christine was working to keep her kids afloat, while Janelle was selling personal belongings just to pay bills, Mr. Brown and Mrs. Robyn Brown were taking spa retreats, high-end purchases, foreign vacations, on their own, in secret. "This is not favoritism, Your Honor. This is financial devastation." Robyn snapped, her voice rising shrill. "That's a lie. Those trips were for the show. TLC reimbursed us. You don't know everything." The gavel of the judge came down. "Mrs. Brown, you will be silent unless called to testify." Robyn drew back, tears welling in her eyes, but her hand only gripped Kody's arm harder. Then came Christine's name. She stood up slowly, her heels clicking against the marble floor with a noise that traveled. For years, she'd had a cheerful voice on television, the voice of a wife attempting to keep a family from falling apart. But now her voice meant something, hurt, and authority. "When I married Kody," she started, steady and cool, "I hoped for an equal family, a family founded on love. But what did I receive was hell. I brought up children in isolation. I saw resources vanish into one family while mine were nothing. My children complained of why they didn't have what the others had, and I couldn't respond to them. How do you clarify favoritism for a child? How do you explain that their dad favored one family above all the others?" The courtroom leaned forward. Even cynics couldn't help but gaze. Her words told with a truth too naked to ignore. "I pleaded with him," she went on, her voice cracking only faintly, "to visit us, to visit our kids. But each time he flipped it around on me. He said I wasn't faithful, that I was envious. And perhaps I was jealous, but not of Robyn. I was jealous of equality, of love, of respect, things that we all deserved but never got." Her eyes shone with tears, but she didn't break. Her strength lay in her survival, not in bitterness. "And when I finally escaped, I thought it was done. But then I discovered the money, the houses, the lies, and I saw it wasn't abandonment, it was betrayal, in every definition of the word." Silence, complete, utter silence. Even the judge hesitated before nodding kindly for her to leave. Christine returned to her seat with her shoulders higher than they had ever been before. For the first time, her truth was no longer whispers in the dark. It was out. It was undeniable. And Janelle was next. Janelle's testimony was not tearful, but it was a punch. She did not arrive with tissues, she arrived with spreadsheets. Cold, calculating, irrefutable. "I handled the finances for years," she said, her tone firm, ringing out over the courtroom. "I knew where the money was meant to go. But when I asked Kody about money that went missing, he shot me down, said I didn't see the big picture. Well, here's the big picture." She arranged the pages like ammunition. Thousands of dollars, lost once more and once more. And now, all pennies accounted for, all avenues laid bare. Her logical disintegration was worse even than Christine's tearful appeal. This was no guesswork. This was no recollection. This was evidence. When she was done, Kody's body shook with fury. He lashed out at his attorney, furious, his face contorted. Then the lawyer inquired whether he wanted to say something. Kody stood up, fists clenched, voice trembling, not with frailty but rage. Your Honor, those women are playing all of us for fools. I adored them. I loved them. I did all that I did to hold this family together. Yes, I made errors. Yes, I wasted money. But he stabbed a finger in Christine's direction. They turned on me. She poisoned their minds about me. She wanted out, and now she's taking the rest with her. This has nothing to do with money. This is revenge. The word repeated like a flash of sparks in parched grass. Pencils of reporters scratched wildly. The word revenge, already set for the headlines of tomorrow. The gavel came down. Order was again maintained. Christine didn't blink. Her gaze remained fixed on Kody, unshakable. Her tone pierced the silence, gentle yet stinging. This isn't revenge, Kody, this is truth. The silence that ensued was denser than his yelling had ever been. The judge ordered recess, and pandemonium broke out. Cameras flashed, reporters dashed for quotes, fans huddled in small groups. But the pretense of the harmonious Brown family had vanished. Instead, all-out war, deception, betrayal, shattered trust, all for the world to see. And everybody in that room knew this is just the tip of the iceberg. When court opened again, the tension had congealed, a heavy apricot cloud in the air. Kody gritted his teeth, muttering hotly to his attorney. Robyn slumped beside him, her face puffy from crying, her tissues torn apart between her fingers. On the other side of the aisle, Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat shoulder to shoulder, their stillness more vigorous than Kody's rage. The voice of the judge pierced the air. Court is now in session. We will continue with presenting more evidence. His tone brooked no warmth, only authority. Christine's attorney stood. Your Honor, we will now produce sales of property and secret accounts, creating a pattern of betrayal, deception, and intentional injury. A screen came to life. Documents filled the room. Deeds, transfers, sales records. The first, the Arizona property, tied up by all 4 wives combined, sold a year and a half prior. Proceeds, about $400,000. And the repository, a single account, Kody's. Within a few months, that cash was used as the down payment for a new home for Kody and Robyn only. Gasps reverberated through the room. Reporters furiously scribbled. Janelle slowly shook her head, as if to confirm the terror that she'd kept hidden for so long. Christine bit hard on her lip, almost until it bled. Meri's fists were clenched so tightly her knuckles whitened. Mr. Brown, the judge inquired, narrowing his eyes. Is that correct? Kody stood, shouting, his temper overflowing. Yes, I sold the house. Yes, I purchased a house for Robyn and myself, but I did it for the family. I couldn't get them to decide on anything. They opposed me every step of the way. Robyn was the only one who would move ahead. I did what had to be done. The attorney pounced on the opportunity. So you admit that you intentionally left the other wives out. You broke your vow, favoring one wife over the others. Kody's face glowed red. I did what was best for us. The attorney's voice boomed back. Best for you, Mr. Brown, not for them. Christine's voice intervened, steel-wired pain in her tone. Do you even listen to yourself, Kody? For the family. Whose family? It was never ours. It was always yours and Robyn's. Robyn's sobs overflowed, her voice breaking. That's not true. You spin everything. We all had options. You left him. You abandoned him. Don't lay your failures at our feet. The gavel slammed down. Order, one more outburst, and this courtroom will be cleared. But the damage was already carved deep. The distance between them stretched wider. The scars cut too far. Then Christine's lawyer dropped another bomb. Your Honor, we've uncovered a hidden savings account, opened under Mr. and Mrs. Robyn Brown's names. Over 2 years, more than $120,000 deposited, straight from TLC show profits. None of the other wives informed. The room exploded in whispers. Janelle leaped to her feet, rage flashing across her face. I managed the income statements for the show. We both agreed those funds were divided equally, 50-50. Kody, what could you have done that was worse than this? Kody's jaw worked, his words trembling with desperation. You can't understand. Robyn's kids needed stability. They needed security. Janelle's voice cracked for the first time ever. I was trying to provide for them, she told him, her voice shaking but firm with sincerity. Do you have any idea how many nights I went without sleep, thinking about how I would make the bills? Do you have any idea how many times my children asked why their dad didn't visit anymore? You gave all that to Robyn's children, and left my kids feeling like they didn't exist at all. The room gasped. Meri's eyes welled up, but she remained quiet. But her silence testified enough. It was a witness in itself, evidence of years of betrayal munched quietly. Then Christine's attorney hit with precision. He spread out printed text messages, uncovered through discovery. On the pages, Kody's own words. His conversations with Robyn that sounded less like love and more like conspiracy. The lawyer's voice cut through the tension. We can't let them find out about this yet. Christine and Janelle will turn on us if they know. Just keep your mouth shut until it's safe. The words hung there like poison. Christine clapped her hand over her mouth, shoulders trembling. Janelle's eyes fell, pale and heavy. Finally, Meri said it, her voice empty. So it was never about us. We were just in the way. Robyn burst into tears. That's not what he meant. He was afraid, that's all. But the court had already witnessed too much. That which once existed only as rumor now lay before them in black and white. Betrayal, black and white. Kody snapped. His voice escalated like a man disintegrating. I was fighting for my marriage. Fighting for what little I had left. Christine, you deserted me. Janelle, you never gave me any respect. Meri, you checked out years ago. What was I supposed to do? Robyn was the one who remained. She was faithful. She stayed with me. The gavel came down, sharp and unforgiving. Mr. Brown, you will control your temper or be held in contempt. Kody slumped into his chair, grumbling to himself. They betrayed me. They wanted me to lose. Across the aisle, Christine bent close to Janelle and Meri. Her whisper had just enough volume to reach the microphones. He's not battling for us. He's battling for domination. The lawyer's last blow struck like a hammer. Your Honor, what we've seen today is not favoritism. It is betrayal, financial deception, emotional abuse. These women were misled, their children abandoned, their futures stolen. This wasn't a marriage. It was manipulation. And it's time the truth has consequences. The judge nodded, face unreadable. The gavel fell once more, and the courtroom dissolved into chaos. Reporters rushed out, phones already blazing with headlines. Kody betrays wives for Robyn. Secret accounts exposed. Brown family implodes in court. Kody stormed out. Robyn clutched hard at his hand. Behind them, Christine, Janelle, and Meri remained, three women who had been set against one another for years. But in this flames of betrayal, they discovered themselves not as enemies but as sisters, bound not by choice but by survival. The next day, the courthouse steps were a movie set. Flashbulbs popped. News trucks clogged the street. Overnight, this was no longer a family tragedy but a national spectacle, a cultural reckoning, the downfall of one of America's most notorious families. Inside, the atmosphere was thick, choking with tension. Christine, Janelle, and Meri sat together, unyielding. They weren't wives fighting a husband anymore. They were survivors seeking justice. Before them sat Kody, crisp in his suit, Robyn beside him, his face impassive, his eyes darting between defiance and desperation. The judge's gavel silenced the room. Court is in session. Today we hear the defense of Mr. Kody Brown. Kody's lawyer stood, his voice steady but authoritative. My client has been accused of being a manipulator, a liar, a betrayer. What hasn't been taken into account is context. The truth of a man trying to keep a family together long before there was even a sale of property, before there was even an exchange of money. Today, Mr. Brown will speak for himself. The attention turned to Kody as he fiddled with the microphone. His initial words shook, but shortly his voice became stronger, full of hurt pride. I want to say this first. I loved these women, all of them. I married them because I believed in us, something greater than me, but no one gets how impossible it was to please everyone. Every decision I made criticized. Every plan picked apart. I was drowning, and when I reached out for someone who believed in me, someone who didn't fight me every step of the way, it was Robyn. Christine's jaw clenched. Janelle folded her arms. Meri's eyes welled up with tears, but she said nothing. Kody continued, his voice hard, even obstinate. The property sales, the bank accounts, those weren't betrayals. They were survival. I was keeping the family safe. But this family was already broken. Christine walked out. Janelle chose to be independent. Meri closed me out years ago. What was I to do? Let it all fall apart? Or create something with the one who still had faith in me? The gallery shifted uncomfortably. His words were laced with anguish, but they had the crisp cut of self-interest. He sat there like a man in court with the entire world as his jury, his bearing that of a victim, cornered, misjudged, burdened by unattainable ideals. Christine's attorney didn't give him a chance to breathe. Mr. Brown, no one coerced you to hide funds. No one intimidated you into wiping out 3 wives and crowning one. You talk of survival, but was it survival? Was it control? Kody's face went red with anger, his fists clenching on the table. You don't know, he growled. You've never experienced a plural marriage. 4 houses, 4 families, 4 constant voices of criticism. I did the best I could and it was never good enough. Robyn, she gave me peace. She gave me loyalty, the others, ultimatums. I wasn't controlling them, I was serving them. There is a difference. Christine stood up, her voice firm but shaking at its boundaries. Serve us? Kody, you never served, you commanded. You punished with silence, with absence, with betrayal. You describe Robyn as peace, but what you're saying is she never defied you. That's not loyalty, it's compliance. And it gave you authority. You liked that authority. Then Janelle, gentle but sharp nonetheless. You refer to yourself as a leader, but leadership is not command, it is sacrifice. It is listening. You left us a long time before we left. Emotionally, we were gone before you even realized. And then Meri. Her tone was low, near breakable, but each word hit with impact. I remained, Kody. After all of it, I remained. And what did I receive? A husband who informed the world that he did not love me, who embarrassed me, who began anew without me. Don't stand there telling us we abandoned you, you abandoned us first. The courtroom split with stillness. Kody's face contorted, his voice cracking open. I was hurt too. Did you think it didn't kill me when Christine left? When Janelle turned away? When Meri gave up? I lost everything. Robyn was the only one who reached back. Is it wrong that I clung to the one person who wouldn't let me drown? The judge leaned in, his tone even but unyielding. Mr. Brown, this isn't a trial of who loved harder. It is whether your actions were legal and fair. Personal soap opera may account for, but not excuse. Kody's attorney attempted to cushion the blow. Your Honor, this family has lived years in the limelight. Every fight, every argument became entertainment. Desperate decisions were made to maintain unity, to the cameras, to the money, for survival. But Christine's attorney cut right through. And yet, the documents reflect only Kody and Robyn benefited, while the rest of the wives and children suffered. This isn't about pressure from the media. It's about choices, and Kody's choices left everyone else in the dust. Kody stood up once more, raw voice caught between pleading and rage. I was attempting to preserve love. One bit of love in my world. I couldn't support them all anymore. You call it control, I call it survival, holding on to something before everything disappeared. The hush that followed was thick, the sort that chills the air. Even the journalists had stopped in mid-sentence, their pens hovering over paper. There was something miserably human in Kody's despair, but also the inexorable burden of the evidence against him. Christine leaned in close to Janelle, her words barely above a whisper. He still doesn't get it. It was never about bearing us, it was about walking with us. And he never did. The judge's eyes swept the courtroom, his words falling with the weight of stone. This court has heard. Love and devotion, as strong as they can be, do not cancel out responsibility. The law does not ask for love. The law asks for justice. The gavel fell once more. Court adjourned. Kody slumped, shoulders slumped, face pale, Robyn's hand on his arm in vain. On the far side of the room, Christine, Janelle, and Meri stood as one, tired but unshakable. The trial neared its end. Tomorrow, the verdict would be delivered. And with it, a line etched forever in the history of the Brown family. It wasn't merely a legal finding. It was the rewriting of a history the world believed it knew. Robyn's eyes opened wide, fists shaking in her lap, frozen in the moment of winning everything or losing it all. The judge's voice sliced through the tension like a knife. This case really is one of trust, both financial and marital. Mr. Brown, you can say your behavior is survival, say it is love, but responsibility does not excuse love. Survival for one does not mean suffering for many. And the evidence is plain. Money and property were transferred in a manner which deprived 3 wives and children, and benefited only yourself and 1 wife. Kody's jaw clenched, his lip drawing into a fine line. His body trembled, but he said nothing. The judge turned to Christine, Janelle, and Meri. Your evidence was cohesive. It was corroborated by documents. And though this court is aware of the profound emotional hurts inflicted by such conduct, my ruling must be based upon law and equity. There was heavy silence. Then the words that remade everything. This court rules in favor of the plaintiffs, Christine Brown, Janelle Brown, and Meri Brown. A gasp of shock traveled around the room. Notepads scrabbled frantically, cameras clicking like shots. Christine's eyes widened as tears streamed down her face. Janelle gulped for air, her body nearly falling from relief. Meri had her hands across her mouth, stifling a sob she had carried for years. The judge raised his hand, calming the storm. Mr. Brown, the court holds your behavior to be financial manipulation and a violation of the trust in marriage. You are hereby commanded to repay $750,000 worth of assets, to be split equally amongst the plaintiffs. A trustee will also be assigned to monitor what is left of the money belonging to the family, out of transparency and out of justice. Kody's fist came down on the table, his voice shattering. That's not fair. That money was for us to secure our future. You don't get it. The judge stared him down. What you refer to as security, this court identifies as favoritism and deception. You talk of family, but in reality, you saved your own self. That's not leadership. That is manipulation, masked as love. And it will not stand. Kody slumped back, his eyes crumpled between anger and heartbreak. Robyn moved in close, breathing desperately in his ear, But he did not hear her. His world, the fleeting construct of family he believed he could command, was falling apart before him. Christine stood up, her voice shaking but unyielding. Your Honor, thank you. This is not about money. It's about dignity, about finally being heard. For years, our scars were spectacle for cameras. But this verdict shows us we counted, that what was done to us was wrong. Janelle trailed behind, her words firmer, determined. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice for us, for our kids, for all those broken promises shrouded in the guise of unity. And Meri, her voice barely perceptible, the tears unremitting. Perhaps now we can finally heal. The judge nodded gravely. Healing starts with truth, and today the truth has been spoken. The gavel fell. The sound boomed like thunder, final, irrevocable. Pandemonium broke out immediately. Journalists descended, microphones stuck out. Christine, are you happy with the verdict? Janelle, do you think Kody will obey? Meri, what are you going to do next? The women did not respond. They clung to one another, moving out together for the first time in years. Cameras snapped, already writing tomorrow's headlines. Sister Wives court battle ends in stunned verdict. Wives win over Kody Brown. Within, Kody was immobile. His lawyer moved papers soundlessly, never meeting his eye. Robyn cried by his side, dabbing her face with tissues. And in the silence, Kody muttered to himself softly, I gave them everything, and it still wasn't enough. But Christine's voice resounded more loudly, searing through the silence. You never walked with us, you walked over us. The Brown family illusion was broken. TLC cameras, excluded from the courtroom, lay in wait outside to film the aftermath, the tears, the anger, the silence that spoke volumes louder than words. Fans would pick apart each shot for months to come. That evening, headlines burned across each outlet. Judge rules against Kody Brown in family court showdown. Polygamy dream ends in collapse. Sister wives break free. But outside the headlines, the tale existed in quieter places. Christine's tears, not only of relief but of sorrow for years lost. Janelle's hug of her children, at last free to offer them stability. Meri's sigh of closure she never thought she would find. And Kody alone, standing in front of the emptiness of a home that somehow seemed too still. His survival, his power, his swagger gone. The wives had spoken. The court had confirmed their suffering, and the world had seen him brought low. The Brown family, as it had been, was no longer. In its place was not legacy, but rupture, not cohesion, but betrayal. And although the verdict was sealed, the wounds it inflicted would reverberate through every page of their lives to be lived.